Here's Marc Kennedy in the car with his dog in the background. What's your dog's name?
This is Maud. Maud is a 4-year-old Bernedoodle, and she's been tasked with running errands for me for the Marc Kennedy Junior Classic coming up. So it's her and I this morning in the vehicle. Sorry about that.
So between a Brier and a World Championship, you're running a junior team, which is arguably, I think, one of the biggest junior curling championships in the world, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I think that's how we've been marketing it. We've reached out to see if there's a bigger event around the world, but I'm not sure there is. This year we've got 75 junior teams coming from all over Canada at 4 different clubs, and yeah, that gets going tomorrow morning. So it's a labor of love. My wife Nicole's heavily involved. We got a great committee. And yeah, it makes it a little tough with preparations for the Worlds, but it's pretty awesome. And the kids are going to get to see the Brier Tankard this weekend. So it's just, yeah, it's a wonderful weekend. We love every minute of it.
If you had asked me, what are the things that Marc Kennedy is going to do between the Brier and the World Championships in terms of this would not be on the list, but I'm very happy that you're doing it because it's a good cause. It sounds like a great event for some of those juniors. So there's one other question. I was just doing a little digging around to make sure I got some numbers right, and I found that Marc Kennedy once played or regularly played football for the Huskies. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, it's
Edmonton
true. I
Huskies.
played, yeah, for the Edmonton Huskies. I had a good little high school football career here. We lost the provincial final back in, oh man, dating me now, 1998, and then moved on to play a little junior football for the Edmonton Huskies. My first year as a backup quarterback for the Huskies, we went 0-9. And I competed against Ben Hebert was the backup quarterback for the Regina Prairie Thunder on the other side of the field. So some pretty cool curling connections there. But I think it was after that 0-9 season I decided I was probably better off in the sport of curling as opposed to football.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I think you've
Yeah,
done pretty
yeah, yeah.
well.
I think I made a good decision. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is going to be your fifth World Championship appearance, and I don't know if it get any easier? Does it get any different? What are the changes since when you first played in this event to what you're expecting coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Ben and I were reflecting a little bit on our earlier world championships, and they weren't as difficult as they are now. We looked at the draw back in '08 and '09, and to be honest with you, you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 teams being a real challenge. Dave Murdoch, Thomas Olsrud, Ralph Stockley, but everyone else were teams that you kind of expected to beat. You take a look at the international field now, and you can't find an easy game. We've played most of the teams that are there. They've all played us tough. We've lost to them. We lost them pretty much all of them at one point in time here. So it's going to be extremely difficult, and we're doing our best to prepare for it, and kind of approaching it the same way you would a Brier these days. But probably at this point, it's going to be harder than winning the Brier.
That's something that we wouldn't have said 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. It really is. The international game has really come up. We've seen it, I think, maybe a little quicker and a little faster in the women's side, but certainly in the men's side. If you said you've played basically all these teams, or you certainly know all these teams that are in there, right?
Yeah, yeah. As far as I know, we know them all or have played pretty close to all of them. But you just expect some pretty stiff competition, and a lot of these teams have a ton of experience at World Championships or Olympics, and that makes it a little bit of a challenge for Canadian teams that don't get there very often. I think those other teams are quite comfortable, so it's going to be pretty important for us to settle in quick and try to get to the high level that we were at in Kelowna, and really battle to try to get in those playoffs, and have a couple of good sudden death games. Maybe the Brier prepped us pretty well for that.
Harder or easier to play a world championship at home?
I think it's easier. I look forward to it. That hometown crowd, the comfort of being in your own country, not having to worry about jet lag, travel, food. Our family members that are going to be coming are going to be comfortable. I think that just makes it a little bit more feel like home and a little bit easier to play. And we're looking forward to some great crowds and some great support from the people of Moose Jaw. So I think this is going to improve our chances of having a really good performance being this close to home.
And where are we right now with the broom situation? We've sort of gone through Briers and Scotties where everyone's agreed on what to use. This is a little different situation, obviously. Is there, to the best of your knowledge, is there any agreement, or is what's happening that you know of?
Yeah, it sounds like those conversations are kind of still continuing. I know I was on a couple of messages this morning, still trying to figure out. As far as I know, it does sound like there's another gentleman's agreement to not use the black foams. So it will be a white foam worlds, as far as I understand, up to this point. Now, whether that means teams are using hardline or the gold line evaders, I think you're going to see a very similar situation to what you saw at the Brier or Scotties, which is good, Bob. I mean, by midweek, it felt like the brooms weren't even a discussion anymore, and teams were just kind of going about their business. So I think we can expect the same at the Worlds, up to this point anyway. I think things can change at any moment when it comes to that, but at this moment, it sounds like a white foam Worlds, which is, I think, good for everybody.
Is is sweeping a much more important component of the game right now than it was when you started?
Oh, substantially. Yes. Yeah. We just know so much more about it now, and the techniques and the materials. If you're doing things efficiently and effectively, and if you got two sweepers like Ben and Brett, it's arguably more important than throwing the rock really well. You know, and trying to manage the rock as it comes down the ice with powerful sweepers with really effective brooms. It's made line calling a heck of a lot harder. I can tell you that much. But it's a huge part of the game, and one of the big reasons that we've been successful this year, especially.
Go back to that. You said it makes line calling more difficult. Just tell me what you mean by that. Obviously, you have to call sweep. You have to call not just straight, but you have to call curl as well, right?
Yeah, you compare it to what it might have been even 10 or 15 years ago, and it was either hard because it's going to curl or get off it because it was wide, right? It was hard or whoa, and then the sweepers kind of did the rest when it came to the weight. But now as a line caller, you have to decide, when to get it to curl. That's the hardest part, is deciding the moment it needs to curl, but if you curl it too quickly with guys like Ben and Brett, you risk over curling and wrecking on guards. So it's all about the timing of curl and straight, and you got to incorporate the speed of the rock into that as well. So I find most line calls, especially on all shots, to almost be a little bit of a math equation, right? You're trying to get all the information to try to make the best decision. And again, we're dealing with, millimeters and centimeters by guards and perfect hit and rolls and perfect draws. And I said this to Brad, and we've both said it, by the end of a game, we're mentally exhausted from the line calling perspective more than anything.
That's amazing. I never would have thought of that. But
Yeah.
and I guess I go back like 10 or 15 years when you were first on the scene and you think about all the things, I don't know, is it like waste? Was there a lot of wasted sweeping
Oh
back
yeah.
compared to what we know
Oh,
now?
Oh, Bob, you think about it now, that the 10-inch brownies sweeping on the wrong side, or the hair broom probably carving rocks instead of keeping them straight. I can only imagine the damage we were doing. It just goes to show you how good those curlers like Kevin Martin and Glenn Howard actually were. The amount of shots that they made with our sweeping, just trying to, negate anything that they had done. It's pretty incredible how far it's come. And yeah, it almost feels sometimes like a different sport than it was 15 years ago.
It is a little crazy.
Yeah,
You have you're if Wikipedia is right, you're 43, right?
you're correct. Yeah.
You've been at this a long time. You've got a whole bunch of accolades. I mean, you've been to the Olympics 3 times. You've got world championship titles. You've got medals. You've got everything. Like, how much longer is this going to keep going for you? And is it? I mean, obviously, you're going through to the next Olympics. Is that when everybody sits back and says, "Okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do next"?
Yeah, I think so, Bob. At this point, it's probably after the Olympics, it's a 1 year at a time type of thing. I won't be doing this much longer. This has been I've had an incredibly fortunate career. I'm very grateful for what I've been able to do in the sport. And the other side of it, I love the giving back part, whether it's the Marc Kennedy Junior Classic. My daughter just played in the U15 provincials in Grand Prairie, and I got to coach that. So, yeah, we're probably getting pretty close to me moving into a different area of curling. But I've loved this journey with this team. We won a lot when we were younger, Bob. and it's getting a lot harder to win. But we really enjoy this challenge of trying to continue to get better. And that's hard to do in your early 40s in a sport you've been playing for 30 years. I think it's easy to say, oh, I know it all, or, this is as good as I'm ever going to get. And I just love that our team hasn't done that. Myself and Ben and Brad, we're always looking for ways to get better. We're always looking for ways to, challenge the young guys, the Bruce Mowats, and just keep trying to get better. And I've loved that. It feels like it's almost kept us young and youthful and really rejuvenated us in the sport. So, we'll give it everything we got here for the next 12 months and then make some big decisions from there.
And I mean, just to sort of on that note, were you shocked at all the changes? You guys made a change obviously a couple of years ago, but were you shocked by all the changes that happened this year, or is it just that's the nature of the game now because everybody's driving for that one goal, that one big win?
Yeah, I'm not overly surprised. I think it's being driven by two main things, Bob. One is there are a lot of curlers in Canada that are getting towards the twilight of their career, and they would like to win at least one more time. It was a big reason for our decision to bring Brad Jacobs in, is we wanted to win now. Ben and I know that we're kind of running out of time here, and we wanted our best opportunity to win now and win next year going into the Olympics. And the second part of it is the international teams. The quality that they've gotten to, their level of performance. We used to be able to go to Grand Slams as a average Canadian team. Let's say you were a top 5 Canadian team, you could still do well at the slams. You could still qualify. You could still get points and make some good money. And nowadays you can't do that. You go to a slam and you're not one of the best Canadian teams, you're getting beat up pretty bad at the slams. That's how good those international teams. So a lot of teams have made changes just in an effort to try to compete. That's how incredible the curling is at that level. So those two reasons, those are, to me, are kind of the two big reasons why you've seen so many changes over the past couple of years, just to remain competitive.
It's a hard game to play, and for you guys right now, is this little break before the Worlds allowing you to recover? Because I've talked to some guys who are just sort of feel beat up after a Brier. You get to that point in the season, all the slams and stuff.
Yeah, we were tired. I remember Brad saying before the last game he had one more in the tank. He had one more game, and then it was going to be a nice break. But I'll tell you what, Bob. It's always been this way. You win the Brier, and it's an incredible boost of adrenaline and motivation and excitement. And it's incredible how quick you can get over the exhaustion to get, to begin to prepare for the World. So, we're excited. We're talking every day. We're starting to get all of our Canada gear, and we're making plans for next week. And I think everybody's just excited and relishing every single moment of this. And although we may be a little bit physically tired next week, we're going to be so fired up on adrenaline and excitement. I don't think we're going to have any problem rising to the occasion for the whole week.
Well, enjoy Moose Jaw. Good luck there. But prior to that, good luck with the Marc Kennedy Junior Championship spiel and and all those kids. You're giving back to the game just as much as you do off the ice as you do on the ice when we get to watch you. And good luck to the Canadian team at the World Championships.
Thanks, Bob. Really appreciate the time and the support, and we'll do our best to bring home some hardware. Thanks, pal.